Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about Starfield. This time the developers were able to answer quite a few questions over on Reddit, which is quite interesting because this developer talks a lot about certain issues that are going to be fixed. So with that being said, if you are looking forward to Starfield in the future, then let's go ahead and dive right into this video. So what you're taking a look at here on the screen is a Reddit user named SpareDifficult9987. This Reddit user had a title called ID bug breaks your save if played too long without New Game Plus. Then right underneath that, you'll see something that says discussion / Bethesda replied ×2. The first question on this list is about dynamic form ID generation. The developer was able to explain exactly what this is and then goes on to explain the issues behind it. What we can see right here is the question says, so what is the dynamic form ID generation? The developer then makes a comment down below by saying, it is basically the script in a game engine that is responsible for generating IDs for each dynamic form. Dynamic forms are most of the in-game objects you encounter during your gameplay. Some examples I can mention are planets, point of interest, parts on your ship, crafted items, planetary features, etc. Now, if you're into modding, you probably already know about dynamic form ID generation and some of the things that this developer was able to explain. Some of you may not even know exactly what that is until now, so there you go. You might be thinking, what's the issue with dynamic form ID generation? Is there any issues? What's going on? Well, apparently there is. If we head over towards the next question, which can be found right here, it says, so now that you know what it is, what is the issue with it? Then the developer left an answer down below by saying, normally how it always works in previous Bethesda titles is that once these in-game objects stop getting used, they get recycled, despawned, and the IDs that were designated to them get recycled, reused for new objects you spawn in when crafting, building, or exploring. That is how the process should work. The problem with Starfield ID generation system is that it's currently bugged. With that, I mean that the current implementation of this system does not work how it's supposed to. It's not recycling the old IDs for newly generated objects. It just stays in your ID list on your save file. And remember, every single new area you explore needs a lot of IDs designated objects that spawn in. So as you can tell right there, the developer went into explaining exactly what the problem is, and it appears that the form IDs that we're using or is supposed to be loading in is not saving correctly, so I guess it's not recycling the old IDs for newly generated objects, which is quite interesting. Also, what's interesting is that the developer himself was like, yeah, it's currently bugged, which I'm surprised because you don't see stuff like that often. I mean, at least from Bethesda, it's usually quiet over there. Continuing on, the next question can be found right here, and it says, why will this be a problem? The developer then makes a comment down below by saying, the problem with this is that after a certain amount of time, without you going through New Game Plus, it will bloat your save file's ID list. What will inevitably happen is that the ID generation will start to run out of numbers it can use for IDs it needs to designate. This will cause your game to crash, and the more you play, the shorter the intervals will be between crashes, practically making your save file unplayable. Okay, so right there, that explains everything that's been going on with crashes on Xbox and PC. Well, I guess nothing's being saved correctly to a point where it's just loading it up continuously until, again, the word that he uses, bloated. So what can happen is that those IDs that he talked about, they're not recycling properly or at least giving you something new. So what happens is that, like he mentions, your save is just going to continuously load and load and load and load with all that data that's not being recycled, and eventually it's just going to become overwhelmed and crash. So if your save is a thick boy, then what you need to do is just kind of give it time until Bethesda is able to implement something correct that's going to fix this problem. The only question that comes to mind is whether or not this is going to correct the problem so that you can reuse that save that was corrupted. But when I asked myself that, I also thought, well, how is it possible if the game is already corrupted? I don't think it's going to be entirely possible for the developers to fix that problem so that, we can reuse those saves. I think you're pretty much screwed if your save is corrupted. Moving towards the next question, which can be found right here, and it says, when will you most likely get it? The developer then left the comment down below by saying, this bug will most likely affect you at around 200-600 hours worth of playtime. The bug is very inconsistent, but most reports I've read are between those two numbers. This also takes into consideration that you haven't New Game Plus after that amount of playtime, the amount of playtime until it's noticed. Also, really depends on how much exploring and crafting building you've done. In short, if you've settled for a specific New Game Plus on your playthrough, you're screwed. You will start to notice random crashes happening for no particular reason. It can crash during a multitude of different scenarios, but the most common one being when coming out of a loading screen after fast traveling and saving ship builds. Well, that's interesting. Pretty much New Game Plus cannot even save your butt when it comes down to this bug. And to be fair here, at this point, I do not think Starfield's worth playing at all right now. I mean, can you imagine playing up to 600 hours and then this bug pops up? I would be devastated. Anyways, let's see what the next question is. Right here, it says, how can you identify it? The developer left this comment down below by saying, the easiest way to identify it is by checking how many IDs your save has created by checking it with the in-game console. The way to do this is pretty straightforward. Drop 1 unit of ammo, any on the ground, open the console, standard is tilde, and check the ID of the ammo piece you drop. It should say ammo FF XXXX. If this ID starts with FF3F XXXX, then your save is already at risk. Remove the first 2 letters from the ID you got, the 2 FFs in front of the example FF3FDD7C to 3FDD7C. Since all IDs are in hexadecimal, you'll need to convert them to decibels. You can easily find such a converter by Googling it. If you get any number that is 4 million, your save is at the point that it will start to consistently crash. This might vary depending on your hardware. Now, I do want to pause for a brief second because it kind of seems like they just want you to do it yourself, at least until they're able to solve this problem and then eventually release a patch. So pretty much if you're on Xbox, you're screwed. If you're on PC, there is a chance to fix this right now. Anyways, continuing on with what the developer was saying. He says another way to find out is either via Trainwreck, a crash logger mod, or by checking the DMP files with WinDBG. I'm not fully literate when it comes to understanding these lines, but if you get these in either WinDBG or Trainwreck's crash log, then you have the bug. The developer then left this debug log right here, and so you can kind of just compare to it and see exactly what's going on and if you do have the issue. The developer then answers another question, which can be found right here, and it says, does this affect console, specifically Xbox? The developer then responds with, while PC has a pretty straightforward to prove this is being an issue, console has not. There is no foolproof way on testing it without getting access to an Xbox save file, since they don't have access to console command, which would have helped tremendously. What I've noticed though is that there is a significant amount of Xbox players that have reported game crashes in the BGS Discord that have the symptom of this bug. Then the developer goes on to explain some of the things that we've already went over, which is the craft and building, exploring how many hours, you know, stuff like that we just went over. It's pretty much the same gist. Moving on towards the last and final question. For this one, apparently I was wrong, and I will admit that. I guess New Game Plus can fix the problem. The developer was able to answer this question, which can be found right here, and it says, how can you fix this? The developer then responds with, as of writing this, 12/07/23, there is nothing you can really do to fix it if you want to continue playing on that save. The only course of action you can do is either to enter New Game Plus, thereby losing all the progress you've done, or starting a completely new playthrough. New everything and backing up your crashing save until a fix releases. This is the only way you can reset the bloated ID list. So with that being said, there is some bad news and some good news, but mostly there is bad news, unfortunately. We are at a point where it's kind of just not worth playing Starfield anymore. I mean, can you imagine if they do not fix this problem and then Starfield's DLC comes out? Oof. Yeah, that's not going to be a fun time at all, and I'm sure you guys can even imagine playing the game and then everything just starts unfolding in the worst way. Especially if you have like 600 hours saved up and then it completely crashes. Holy smoke, guys. This is a big problem, and hopefully they do fix it in the future, because again, if they do not, it's going to become a problem. Hopefully Fallout 5 or Elder Scrolls 6 actually turns out to be a success, because Starfield is looking like a train wreck now. So anyways, let me know what you think about all the information in today's video. If you have any questions, comment down below. I will be answering those questions within the first hour. Thank you guys so much for the support. If you have yet to check out my Cyberpunk videos, I definitely recommend it. Other than that, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you all in the next video.